On Christmas Eve, I pulled into my daughter's driveway and froze. She was standing on the front porch clutching my 4-year-old granddaughter as the little girl shivered in the cold. The moment she saw me, she whispered through tears, "Dad, I'm scared." I rushed them into my car, then noticed a crumpled note from her mother-in-law. Useless, worthless. Be gone before we return from our vacation. I didn't yell or confront anyone. I made one quiet phone call. 2 days later, they came home early from their trip and called me 23 times. If you found Revenge Dad today, I'm glad you stayed. Drop a comment and tell me where you're watching from, your city or your country. Knowing you're out there means more than you think. Some elements of this story are fictional, added to make the message land the way it should. Any resemblance to real people or places is coincidental. The lesson, however, is entirely worth keeping. I was 7 minutes away from Pasadena when my phone buzzed on the passenger seat. I didn't pick it up. I figured it was Raymond calling about some property inspection that had run long, or maybe Diane from next door, asking if I wanted her to leave the porch light on. Nothing that couldn't wait. I had a box of Christmas presents sitting in the back seat, wrapped in red and gold paper, the way Maisie liked. And I was thinking about the look on her face when she saw the little wooden horse I'd found at a craft market in Glendale 2 weeks ago. 4 years old, and that child already had opinions about horses. The drive from Glendale to Pasadena on Christmas Eve was quiet in the way that only Los Angeles ever manages the freeway, half empty. The streetlights strung with decorations that nobody was really looking at the whole city, in a kind of held-breath pause before the holiday hit full force. I had the radio on low, some old song I half recognized. I turned onto the Hale family street at 7:43 in the evening, and I remember that time exactly because I glanced at the dashboard clock when I made the turn. What I saw when I pulled into the driveway made my foot hit the brake before my brain had fully processed it. Evelyn was standing on the front porch in the cold. She had Maisie pressed against her chest, and Maisie's little face was buried in her mother's shoulder, and both of them were shaking. Not the kind of shaking that comes from standing outside for 30 seconds to check the mail, the deep bone-cold shaking of people who had been out there a long time. 2 suitcases sat on the porch steps, like they'd been dropped and forgotten. The front door behind them was shut. Every light in the house was off. I got out of the car so fast, I left the engine running. "Evelyn!" My voice came out steadier than I felt. I crossed the driveway in a few long strides, and the moment Evelyn heard me, something in her broke open. She turned toward me, and even in the low light from the street, I could see that her eyes were swollen and red, her cheeks wet. Her lips pressed together so hard they'd gone white. "Dad!" Her voice cracked on that single word. "Dad, She couldn't finish. A sob hit her so hard her whole body shook with it, and Maisie stirred against her shoulder and made a small, frightened sound. I didn't ask questions. I pulled off my coat and wrapped it around Maisie first, tucking it close around the little girl's back and shoulders. Maisie's hands were ice cold when they brushed against mine, 4 years old, standing in the December chill on a porch with her suitcase. "Come on," I said. "Both of you, in the car." I got them settled in the back seat, turned the heat up as high as it would go, and angled the vents toward Maisie. The little girl had her head on Evelyn's shoulder, eyes drooping with exhaustion and cold, and whatever children absorb from the fear of the adults around them. Evelyn had both arms wrapped around her daughter, and was pressing her lips to the top of Maisie's head over and over, like she was trying to transfer warmth through sheer repetition. I went back to the porch and picked up the 2 suitcases. That was when I saw the paper. It had been tucked under the handle of the larger suitcase folded once, and then crumpled like someone had grabbed it hard before letting go. I picked it up. The porch light from the neighbor's house gave me just enough to read by. The handwriting was Claudia's. I recognized it from 4 years of birthday cards and holiday notes, and the occasional passive-aggressive message left on the kitchen counter. It said, "Useless, worthless, be gone before we get back." That was all. No date, no signature, not even a period at the end, as if the person who wrote it couldn't be bothered to finish the sentence. I stood on that porch for a moment with the note in my hand. The house behind me was dark and completely empty. I had noticed, without fully cataloging it yet, that Vernon's car was gone from the driveway. No luggage by the door, no lights in any window. The kind of empty that means nobody is coming back tonight. I folded the note and put it in my shirt pocket. In the car, once I had the suitcases in the trunk and had settled into the driver's seat, Evelyn spoke. Her voice was quieter now, hollowed out. "They left this morning," she said. Vernon and Claudia and Kendra, Palm Springs. They didn't tell me they were going until Claudia put that note on the suitcase. And Preston. Her breath hitched. Preston said he had an emergency at work. He was gone by 2 o'clock. He took his overnight bag. She pressed her hand flat against her sternum, like she was trying to hold something in. My credit card stopped working at 3, the joint account one. I tried to use it at the grocery store for Maisie's dinner, and it declined. I called the bank, and they said the account had been frozen by the primary account holder. Preston, I said. Preston. She said his name like it tasted wrong. Maisie had fallen asleep by then, her small mouth slightly open, one fist curled under her chin. I watched her in the rearview mirror for a moment, that tiny, trusting face, and felt something move through my chest that I didn't have a clean word for. I pulled out my phone and called Raymond Cole. He picked up on the second ring, which was typical. Raymond had been my business partner and closest friend for going on 31 years, and in all that time, I had never once gotten his voicemail when it mattered. "Walter," he said, "Merry Christmas." "Raymond." I kept my voice even and low because Maisie was sleeping, and because I had learned a long time ago that the moments that call for the most action are usually the ones that call for the quietest voices. "Do you remember the Hale property file, the loan documents from 2 years ago?" A brief pause. "The $85,000. Yes, I remember." "Tomorrow morning," I said, "pull those documents, review the loan terms, the repayment schedule, and the deed of trust provision. If what I remember about the default clause is correct," I paused for 1 second. "Start the process, do everything exactly as written in the contract, and Raymond don't contact them first." Another pause, shorter this time. Raymond had known me long enough not to ask unnecessary questions in moments like this one. "I'll have it pulled by 8 a.m., he said. "Thank you." I ended the call and set the phone on the seat beside me. Maisie shifted in the back seat and sighed in her sleep, the small sound filling the whole car. Evelyn pressed her cheek against her daughter's hair and closed her eyes, tears tracking silently down her face. I pulled out of the Hale driveway and drove toward Glendale without looking back at the dark house. The drive back to Glendale took 24 minutes. I know because I watched the clock the way you do when you need something concrete to hold on to, when the situation in the back seat is too large for you to process and your mind reaches for small, manageable facts. 24 minutes. The heater was running full blast. Maisie was asleep. Evelyn stared out the window at the passing streetlights with the hollow expression of someone who had cried past the point where crying helped. Somewhere on the 210 freeway, I asked her a question. "Evelyn," I kept my eyes on the road. "The things you bought for that house, the furniture, the appliances, anything with your name on the receipt, do you still have those records?" She turned her head slowly like the question had reached her from a distance. "My email," she said. "I keep everything in my email. Why?" "Just making sure," I said. She looked at me for a moment longer, trying to read something in my profile, then turned back to the window. She didn't push. Evelyn had always understood better than most people that when I asked a quiet question, I usually had a reason that would become clear when the time was right. When we got to the house on Mariposa Street, I carried Maisie inside without waking her. The little girl barely stirred when I laid her down in the guest room and pulled the quilt up around her shoulders. She had her mother's jawline and her father's stubborn way of clenching her fists even in sleep, and looking at her in that moment made something tighten painfully behind my ribs. I went back out to help Evelyn with the suitcases. She was standing in the hallway with her arms wrapped around herself, rubbing her hands up and down her forearms, the way she used to do as a teenager when she was trying not to fall apart. "The bathroom's got fresh towels," I said. "You know where everything is?" She nodded but didn't move. Then her face crumpled all over again, her chin dropping, her eyes squeezing shut, and she pressed both hands over her mouth as a sob worked its way up from somewhere deep. "I don't understand," she managed, her voice muffled behind her fingers. "I don't understand what I did. What did I do? Dad, Maisie has been in that house since she was born. She calls it home. She calls Claudia grandma, and I know that woman never really warmed up to me. I always knew that, but I thought—" She stopped, drew a shaking breath. "I thought she loved Maisie at least. I thought that was real." "It's real," I said. "This isn't about Maisie." "Then what is it about?" "I don't have all the pieces yet," I told her honestly. "But I will. Get some sleep. We'll talk in the morning." She wiped her face with the back of her hand, nodded twice like she was convincing herself, and disappeared down the hallway. I was still standing in the entryway when my phone rang. The caller ID read Diane Mercer, and I stepped outside onto the porch to take it, pulling the door mostly shut behind me. Diane had lived across the street from me for 19 years. She was the kind of neighbor who noticed things and had the good sense to know which things were worth mentioning. She was 71 years old, sharp as a tack, and she had a habit of calling at exactly the right moment. "Walter," she said, "I hope I'm not calling too late." "You're not. What is it?" "I saw them tonight." Her voice was careful chosen. "Evelyn and that little one. They were standing on that porch over in Pasadena. I was dropping gifts at my sister's place. She's just 3 blocks from there, and I pulled over because I didn't know if something had happened. Evelyn waved me off, said she was fine, but she was holding that baby in the cold, and there were bags on the steps, and she paused. She didn't look fine, Walter." "She wasn't," I said. "I took some photographs," Diane said, and I heard the slight hesitation in it, the uncertainty about whether she'd overstepped. "On my phone. I didn't know if you'd need them. I just had a feeling. You know how sometimes you just have a feeling?" Something shifted in my chest, not quite relief, but something adjacent to it. "You did the right thing, Diane," I said. "Don't delete them. I'll explain more when I can." "Of course," she said. "They're safe. Merry Christmas, Walter. I'm glad you got to them." I stood on the porch for a moment after the call ended, looking at the quiet street. Then I went inside and walked directly to my office. The bottom drawer of my desk had a lock that I almost never used. Inside it was a wooden box, and inside that box was a manila folder that I had not opened in nearly 8 months. I carried it to the desk, sat down and spread the contents under the lamp. The promissory note was on top. Dated 26 months ago, signed by Vernon Hale in his careful, precise handwriting, the signature of a man who wanted it on record that he knew exactly what he was doing. What most people don't realize about private loans between individuals is that they can carry the same legal weight as any bank instrument, provided the paperwork is done correctly. 2 years ago, when Vernon's primary mortgage had reached a crisis point, a balloon payment coming due that he could not cover, the bank threatening to move toward foreclosure proceedings, he had come to me. Not easily. Vernon Hale had never done anything easily that required him to acknowledge a limitation. He'd sat across from me at this same desk and explained the situation in the clipped, controlled tones of a man in free fall who refused to look down. He needed $85,000. He needed it within 30 days. And he wanted it structured as a formal loan with a signed agreement and a deed of trust recorded against the Pasadena property as collateral because, and I remembered his exact words, "I am not going to sit here and take charity from my son's father-in-law." I had agreed to his terms. We used a real estate attorney to draft the promissory note and record the deed of trust with Los Angeles County. The monthly repayment amount was modest. The terms were generous. I had extended the repayment schedule twice already without complaint because Evelyn was happy and Maisie was thriving, and I had told myself that was enough. What I had discovered 3 months ago through Raymond's quiet review of the account was that Vernon had stopped making payments entirely. 9 months of missed installments with no phone call, no explanation, no acknowledgement that a legally binding obligation existed at all. He had simply stopped the way a man stops when he has decided the other party will never push back. I sat at my desk with that folder open in front of me and thought about a 4-year-old girl standing in the cold on a porch with her suitcase. I thought about the words on that note. Useless, worthless. I picked up my phone and sent Raymond a follow-up message. 8 a.m., everything by the book. The deed of trust provision is in section 4, paragraph 2. Then I put the folder back in the box, locked the drawer, and turned off the lamp. Down the hall, I could hear Evelyn crying again quietly, in the way adults cry when they're trying not to be heard. The sound moved through the walls of my house like something physical, like weather. I sat in the dark for a long moment, my hands flat on the desk. Then I went to make sure all the doors were locked, checked on Maisie one more time, still sleeping, one arm thrown out to the side, the quilt rising and falling with her small, steady breaths, and went to bed. I did not sleep for a long time. Christmas Day came and went quietly on Mariposa Street. Maisie woke up disoriented, asking for her toys, and then asking where her bedroom was, and Evelyn held her close on the guest bed and explained in the careful, gentle tones of a mother who is breaking apart on the inside that they were staying at Grandpa's house for a little while. Maisie accepted this with the particular resilience of 4-year-olds, which is to say she accepted it completely and immediately pivoted to asking if Grandpa had any cereal. I had cereal. I also had the wooden horse from the back seat of my car, which I retrieved before Maisie finished her breakfast. The look on her face when she unwrapped it, eyes going wide, both hands reaching out a delighted sound that she made in the back of her throat, was the one genuinely uncomplicated moment of that entire holiday. Evelyn watched her daughter play from across the kitchen table, her coffee going cold in her hands, and every so often her eyes would fill up again, and she would press her lips together and breathe slowly through her nose until she had it under control. We talked a little, not about the important things, not yet. I asked her if she'd eaten. She said she wasn't hungry. I made her a plate of eggs anyway and set it in front of her, and she ate half of it without seeming to notice she was doing it. That night I lay in bed and did not sleep again. By the morning of the 26th, I had made my peace with the fact that the next several weeks were going to require a kind of patience I was going to have to manufacture deliberately the way you do when the situation demands more than you naturally have on hand. I was in the kitchen at 8:15 when my phone buzzed once on the counter. A message from Raymond, sent delivery confirmed. Section 4, paragraph 2 is specified. All documentation attached. I read it twice, set the phone face down. Poured myself a second cup of coffee. The first call came at 8:47, Vernon's name on the screen. I let it go to voicemail. The second came 4 minutes later, then a third. Then starting around 9:30, they began arriving in clusters. Vernon, then Claudia, then Preston, then Vernon. Again, then Claudia, twice in a row. By 11 o'clock, I had counted 17 missed calls. By noon, the number had reached 23. I knew what Raymond had done, and I knew it was correct in every particular. Under California law, when a private loan is secured by a deed of trust recorded against a property and the borrower has defaulted on payments, the lender has the right to issue a notice of default. This document, filed with Los Angeles County and delivered to the borrower, formally notifies them that they are in breach of the loan agreement and starts a legally mandated clock. The borrower then has 90 days to bring the account current before any further action can be taken. Nobody was losing their house that morning. Nobody was being dragged into the street. Raymond had simply done what the contract required, sent a piece of paper that said, for the first time in 9 months, that the terms Vernon had agreed to actually existed and actually applied to him. 23 phone calls suggested Vernon had not expected to be reminded of this. At 12:17, a text message arrived from Vernon's number. I had not heard from this man by text in 4 years of knowing him. He was of a generation and a disposition that considered texting beneath him. The message read, "Walter, what the hell did you do?" Not a question. A statement delivered in the tone of a man who considered himself the aggrieved party. I looked at it for a long moment. Evelyn was in the other room, reading to Maisie, her voice carrying softly down the hallway. Something about a bear and a forest and a jar of honey. The normalcy of it, the sweetness of it, sat directly alongside the message on my screen, in a contrast that made my jaw tighten. I typed my response carefully. "Everything goes through the paperwork from now on, Vernon." I sent it, put the phone in my shirt pocket, walked down the hallway to the living room doorway and stood there for a moment, watching Evelyn hold the picture book at an angle so Maisie could see the illustrations. Maisie had the wooden horse in her lap. She was moving its legs back and forth absently while her mother read perfectly content, completely unaware that her grandfather was standing in the doorway, holding 23 missed calls in his pocket like stones. "Is the bear going to find his honey?" Maisie asked, pointing at the page. Evelyn smiled. It was a real smile, a tired one worn at the edges, but real. "Keep listening, and we'll find out," she said. I went back to the kitchen. Around 2 in the afternoon, Preston's number appeared on my screen. Not a call this time, a text. It said, "Walter, I need to talk to you. It's important. Please call me back." I noted the time and did not respond. At 3:40, Claudia sent a message to Evelyn's phone. I didn't see it until Evelyn showed it to me, her hand trembling slightly as she held out the screen. The message read, "Tell your father to answer his phone. This is completely unacceptable and he knows it." Evelyn stared at the screen after I'd read it, her throat working. "They're still in Palm Springs," she said. "They're not even home yet, and they're already—" She stopped, shook her head, the movement tight and controlled like she was physically refusing to let the words land all the way. "What did you do? Dad, what was in that phone call you made?" I sat down across from her at the kitchen table. Maisie was napping, and the house was quiet enough that I could hear the refrigerator hum. 2 years ago, I said your father-in-law came to me with a problem, and I told her about the $85,000. I told her about the deed of trust, about the monthly payments that had stopped 9 months ago, without explanation about the document Raymond had filed that morning with Los Angeles County. I told her all of it slowly and clearly, the way you deliver information to someone who's going to need to carry it for a long time. Evelyn listened without interrupting. When I finished, she pressed both hands flat on the table in front of her, fingers spread like she was checking that the surface was still solid. She called me useless, Evelyn said. Her voice had gone very quiet, and something in it had shifted, not breaking but hardening the way metal does under enough pressure. She wrote that on a piece of paper and left it for me to find while her husband was 9 months behind on money he owes you. She lifted her eyes to mine. Does Preston know about the loan? I don't know, I said honestly. But by tonight, everyone in that family is going to know that I do. Evelyn's phone buzzed again on the table between us. Preston's name on the screen this time. She looked at it, her jaw set. She turned the phone face down and left it there. Preston showed up at 4:50 in the afternoon on the 26th, the day after Christmas. I saw him on the porch camera before he knocked, standing at the top of the steps, with a bouquet of grocery store flowers in one hand, and his collar turned up against the December chill, looking like a man who had rehearsed this moment in the car, and was now discovering that rehearsals never quite cover everything. He was wearing the charcoal wool coat Evelyn had picked out for him 2 Christmases ago. That detail landed somewhere in my chest and sat there. He knocked twice. I went to the door and opened it, and I did not move back to let him in. Walter? His eyes were red at the rims, the kind of red that comes from either genuine crying or a long drive with the heat turned up too high. I need to see Evelyn, please. I need to explain. Explain what? I said. He blinked. What happened? All of it. I didn't know they were going to do that. I swear to you, I had no idea my parents were going to. Evelyn! I turned my head and called her name without stepping aside. She came down the hallway, slowly stopping a few feet behind me. When Preston saw her, something moved across his face, relief, guilt, longing. It was all tangled together, and I couldn't separate it cleanly. He took half a step forward and held out the flowers. Ev! His voice broke on her name. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I wasn't there. I didn't know any of this was going to happen. And when I found out, a tear broke loose down his left cheek, and he wiped it away fast like it had surprised him. I want to fix this. Tell me how to fix this. Evelyn looked at the flowers. She looked at his face. Something in her expression was working very hard the way a muscle works when it's being asked to hold more weight than it was built for. She was about to speak when we heard the sound of small feet on the hardwood floor. Maisie came around the corner at a run, still holding the wooden horse, and the moment she spotted her father, she let out a shriek of pure delight that bounced off every wall in the entryway. Daddy! She launched herself forward, and Preston caught her, swinging her up against his chest and pressing his face into her hair, his shoulders shaking with something he was trying very hard not to let become a sound. Hey, Bug! His voice was muffled. Hey, I missed you. I missed you too. Maisie pulled back to look at his face with the frank, unsentimental curiosity of a 4-year-old conducting an inspection. She patted his cheek twice with her small palm. Then, in the tone of someone raising a perfectly reasonable question, she said, Daddy, why did you tell me to pack my toys before you left? The air in the entryway changed. Preston went very still. Not the stillness of someone thinking, the stillness of someone who has just heard the one thing they were not prepared for, coming from the one direction they never thought to guard. Maisie looked between the adults around her with bright, unconcerned eyes, waiting for someone to answer her perfectly reasonable question. I watched Preston's face. I had spent 30 years in business, learning to read the moment when a person's prepared story meets an obstacle it wasn't built to handle. What I saw move across Preston Hale's face in the next 4 seconds was not confusion. It was not surprise. It was the very specific expression of a man who has just been caught. Evelyn had gone pale. Her hand came up and gripped the doorframe beside her, her knuckles whitening, her lips parting. She stared at her husband over the top of their daughter's head. And the question she needed to ask was so large that for a moment it had no shape at all. It was just a pressure behind her eyes, a trembling in her jaw, a grief moving through her chest like a current. Preston! Her voice came out barely above a whisper, scraped raw. She said you told her to pack her toys. Preston opened his mouth, closed it. 3 days before Christmas, Evelyn continued, and her voice was gathering something now. Not volume, but weight, each word heavier than the last. You told our 4-year-old daughter to choose her favorite toys and put them in a bag. 3 days before my mother-in-law left a note calling me worthless. She released the doorframe and stood up very straight. So I need you to tell me right now what exactly you knew and when you knew it. Maisie looked up at her father, still waiting for the answer to her original question. The wooden horse dangling from her hand. Preston looked at me. I looked back at him and said nothing, because there was nothing I needed to say. Whatever came out of his mouth next, he was going to have to produce it entirely on his own. Preston shifted Maisie in his arms and set her down gently on the floor. He crouched to her level, and his voice came out carefully, the way adults speak when they are buying themselves 4 seconds to think. Hey, Bug, can you go get your horse and show me what tricks you taught it today? I'll come see in just a minute. Maisie considered this offer with the gravity it deserved, decided it was acceptable, and trotted back down the hallway with the wooden horse bouncing against her hip. We listened to her footsteps fade. Then Preston straightened up, and the careful voice was gone. Ev, he took a step toward her. Listen to me. Whatever you're thinking right now, don't. Evelyn's voice hit him like a flat hand. She had her phone out and her thumb was moving across the screen, with the focused intensity of someone who knows exactly what they're looking for and is praying they won't find it. Just don't say another word until I check something. Preston watched her scroll. A muscle jumped in his jaw. His hands came up and he pressed his knuckles against his mouth, and I could see from where I was standing that his breathing had gone shallow and controlled the breathing of a man trying very hard to appear calm while his pulse was doing something else entirely. Evelyn stopped scrolling. Her face changed. It didn't crumple this time. It went still and hard in a way I had not seen on my daughter's face before, a stillness that was somehow worse than tears. The expression of someone absorbing a blow so squarely that the pain hasn't reached the surface yet. She turned the phone around and held it out toward Preston. Her hand was trembling, but her eyes were not. Read it, she said, out loud. Preston looked at the screen. He didn't move. Out loud, Preston. He exhaled through his nose. When he spoke, his voice was flat and stripped of everything. Tonight on the 24th, we do what we planned. Don't be home. He stopped. Keep going, Evelyn said. That's the whole message. Then read your reply. A long pause, a breath that seemed to cost him something. I understand. The words fell into the entryway and stayed there. Evelyn lowered her phone. She pressed it against her sternum with both hands like she was using it to keep something inside her chest from coming loose. Her chin was shaking. Her eyes had gone bright and wet, but the tears didn't fall, and somehow that was the hardest thing to look at. You knew, she said. Not an accusation. A fact being spoken aloud for the first time the way you say the name of a diagnosis after the doctor has confirmed it. 3 days before Christmas, you told our daughter to pack her toys. 2 days before Christmas, your mother sent you the plan and you said you understood. And then on Christmas Eve, you invented an emergency and you left. Her voice fractured on the last word, but she pulled it back together immediately, and what came out next was quieter and more devastating than any volume could have been. You left us there, Preston. You left Maisie standing on that porch in the cold because it was easier than being in the house when it happened. Preston's face had gone gray. He reached out one hand toward her. Evelyn, I was caught between... Don't. She stepped back from his hand. Don't tell me you were caught in the middle. You made a choice. You made it in a text message at 9 o'clock on December 22nd, and you saved it with 2 words. Her jaw set hard. You could have told me. You could have warned me. You could have said no to your mother. You had 3 days, and you said nothing. I know. His voice broke open. I know, and I'm sorry. I am so sorry, Ev. If you would just let me explain the position I was in. I understand your position. She said it quietly, and the echo of his own words. The 2 words from that text message seemed to register on his face like a physical impact. He flinched. I understand it completely, and I need you to leave. Evelyn, I need you to leave my father's house right now. She said it without heat, without volume, which made it more final than shouting would have. When Maisie asks where you went, I'll tell her you had to go take care of something. Because that's what we do, isn't it? We protect her from the things the adults in her life decide to do. Preston stood in the doorway for a long moment. His eyes moved to me, and I saw in them something I recognized, the look of a man searching for an exit that isn't there. I stepped back from the door and held it open. He walked out. I closed it behind him. Evelyn stood in the entryway with both hands pressed flat over her heart, her shoulders rising and falling with the effort of breathing through something enormous. Then from down the hallway came Maisie's voice, bright and unhurried. "Daddy, I taught the horse to jump. Come see." Evelyn closed her eyes. 2 tears ran down her face, one after the other, and she reached up and caught them both with her fingers before they could fall any further. Then she opened her eyes, and her face rearranged itself into something soft and steady, the face she kept specifically for her daughter. "Daddy had to go take care of something, sweetheart," she called back. "But I want to see the horse jump. Show me." She walked down the hallway. I heard Maisie laugh. I stood at the closed front door and listened to the sound of my daughter choosing her child over her grief in real time, and thought that there are kinds of strength that don't have names, because the people who have them are too busy using them to stop and call it anything. That evening, Evelyn's phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. She glanced at the screen and then at me. "Claudia," she said. I nodded. "Put it on speaker." Evelyn set the phone on the kitchen counter between us and hit the speaker button. Claudia's voice filled the room, immediately warm and unhurried, the voice of a woman who had decided in advance that this conversation was going to go smoothly, because she had decided in advance that all her conversations went smoothly. "Evelyn, sweetheart." The endearment landed like a hand on the shoulder from someone you don't want touching you. "I'm so glad you picked up. I've been worried about you." Evelyn looked at me across the counter. Her jaw was tight, but she kept her voice even. "Have you?" "Of course I have. Your family." A small, generous pause, as though Claudia were giving the word room to breathe. "I know this situation has been upsetting, and I completely understand why you're feeling hurt right now, but I think if we just talk through it calmly, you'll see that this is actually a very workable arrangement." "What arrangement is that?" Evelyn said. "Well," another pause, slightly longer, the pause of someone selecting their words with care. "Kendra is going through a very difficult time. Her relationship ended rather suddenly, and she's found herself without a stable living situation, and as her mother, I simply can't, breath carefully placed. I can't turn my back on my own daughter when she needs me. I'm sure you understand that. You're a mother yourself." I watched Evelyn's hand curl slowly into a fist on the countertop. "So you gave her my room," Evelyn said. "We made a temporary adjustment. Yes, Kendra needs somewhere to land right now, and your father is right there. He has the space he adores. Maisie." It all made sense. Claudia's voice shifted slightly, picking up a note of bright reasonableness, the tone of someone explaining a seating arrangement at a dinner party. "Once Kendra gets back on her feet, which won't take long, everything goes back to normal. You come home. Maisie's back in her room, and we put this whole unpleasant episode behind us." The word episode settled into the kitchen like something dropped from a height. Evelyn's fist tightened. A muscle pulled in her cheek. When she spoke, her voice was controlled in the way that a wire is controlled, taut humming, with something that had nowhere to go. "Claudia, my daughter was standing outside in the cold on Christmas Eve. She's 4 years old." "I know, and that was unfortunate timing." She was shaking. Evelyn's voice cracked on the word, and she pulled it back, her eyes filling. "She was cold, and she was scared, and she didn't understand what was happening, and you left a note that called me worthless." A brief pause on the line. When Claudia spoke again, the warmth had been adjusted, very slightly recalibrated. "I may have expressed myself poorly under stress, but, Evelyn, the important thing is, you knew Walter would come," Evelyn said. The tears had spilled now, tracking down her face, but her voice had gone somewhere past grief into something colder and more clear. "That's why you didn't call anyone, didn't make sure we had anywhere to go. You knew he'd come get us because he always does. You were counting on it." A beat of silence on the line. Then Claudia said, with the careful brightness of someone changing lanes, "Walter is wonderful with Maisie. We all know that. And honestly, this gives you two some lovely time together, while Kendra uses my room. While things settle down, yes." Evelyn reached out and ended the call. She stood with her hand flat on the phone, staring at the counter, her chest rising and falling hard. Then a sound came out of her that was somewhere between a laugh and a sob, broken and disbelieving. "And they planned this," she said. "They needed her room, and they needed someone to take us in, and they looked at us, and they looked at you, and they just—" She pressed the back of her hand against her mouth. Fresh tears spilled over her fingers. "We weren't their family, Dad. We were a problem they needed to relocate. I came around the counter and put my hand on her shoulder. She turned into it, pressing her forehead against my arm, her whole body shaking with the effort of crying quietly so Maisie wouldn't hear. I held on and let her. After a while, the shaking slowed. She straightened up, wiped her face with both hands, and looked at me with eyes that were swollen and exhausted, and underneath all of that, beginning to clear. "What do we do now?" she asked. "Tomorrow," I said, "you make a list of everything in that house that you paid for. Every receipt, every record you have in your email." I kept my voice steady and practical, because that was what she needed from me right then. "We're going to need it." She nodded once, absorbing this. From down the hall, Maisie called out that the horse had learned a new trick, and could someone please come watch. We drove to Pasadena the next morning, just the two of us. Evelyn had her phone in her lap, with her email open, the list of receipts she'd spent half the night compiling, already sorted by date and category. She had always been organized in a way that reminded me of her mother, methodical, thorough, the kind of person who keeps records not because they expect trouble, but because order is how they make sense of the world. That morning, I was glad of it. Maisie stayed home with Diane, who had appeared at my door at 8 o'clock with a plate of banana bread and the serene, purposeful energy of a woman who understood exactly what kind of help was needed without being told. She had Maisie set up with crayons and construction paper before Evelyn and I had even backed out of the driveway. The Hale house looked different in the December morning light, smaller somehow. The Christmas wreath on the front door was still there, slightly crooked, the red ribbon faded at the edges. Vernon's car was back in the driveway. They had cut the Palm Springs trip short. The notice of default, it seemed, had considerably shortened their holiday. I parked at the curb, and we walked up together. Claudia answered the door before we knocked. She must have seen us coming from a window, because she was already positioned in the doorway when we reached the porch steps, one hand on the frame and one hand on the door, filling the opening in a way that made it very clear we were not being invited inside. The warmth from last night's phone call was entirely gone. In its place was the clipped proprietary manner of someone standing guard over something they have decided belongs to them. "Evelyn," she said, then with a slight nod that contained no warmth whatsoever. "Walter?" "We're here to collect Evelyn's belongings," I said. Claudia's chin came up. "Of course, though I want to be clear that certain items in this house are part of the household and aren't going anywhere. Such as," Evelyn said, "the living room furniture for one, the television in the main room, the kitchen appliances we all selected together." Claudia listed these items with the measured confidence of someone who has rehearsed the inventory. Those were purchased for the home, not for any one person. Evelyn pulled up her email and began reading aloud without inflection, the way you read a legal document. "The sofa, purchased February of last year, $1,400, my Visa card ending in 4117. She looked up. "I have the receipt." Claudia's expression shifted slightly, recalculating. "The armchair in the corner, November before, that $620, same card." Evelyn kept her eyes on her phone. The coffee table, the bedroom dresser, the lamp in the hallway. She lowered the phone and met Claudia's gaze. "I'd like to start with those and then move to the bedroom." Claudia stepped back from the door, not graciously, but because there was nothing else to do. What followed was 40 minutes of careful, systematic work. Evelyn moved through the house with her phone and her list, identifying each item, confirming the receipt, and setting things by the door for the moving service I had called that morning. Claudia trailed at a distance, making small sounds of objection that she seemed to know would not be acted on. I stayed near the door and said nothing. I was there to be present, not to escalate. There is a particular kind of support that consists entirely of standing somewhere and not leaving, and that was what my daughter needed from me that morning. The bedroom took longest. Evelyn went through each drawer, each shelf, each corner of the closet with the focused quiet of someone who is refusing to feel things until the job is done. I stood in the doorway and watched her fold Maisie's small clothes into a laundry bag, and the tightness in my throat was something I swallowed down and did not mention. Then Evelyn stopped. She turned from the desk and looked at the surface, then at the shelf above it, then around the room with a slow, careful sweep. "The laptop," she said. "My MacBook." She opened the closet again, checked under the bed, opened the desk drawer. Then she straightened up and looked at Claudia, who had appeared in the bedroom doorway behind me. "Where's my laptop?" Claudia tilted her head slightly. "I'm sorry, my laptop. MacBook Pro. It lives on this desk." Evelyn pointed at the empty surface. "It's not here." I don't know about any laptop, Claudia said. The words were delivered with such practiced ease that for a moment they almost sounded true. Almost. Evelyn looked at me. I looked back at her and gave the smallest shake of my head. Not now, not here. My email receipt is from the Apple Store on Colorado Boulevard. Evelyn said, her voice perfectly level. 14 months ago. Serial number is in the purchase confirmation. I'll find it in the car. Claudia said nothing further. She stepped back from the doorway to let us pass. On the drive home, Evelyn found the Apple receipt in under 2 minutes. She read me the serial number. I repeated it twice until I had it memorized. Don't contact them about it, I told her. Not yet. Then what? Wait, I said. And in the meantime, I want you to call a family law attorney, someone who handles divorce cases in Los Angeles County. I glanced at her. A colleague of mine used someone named Sandra Okafor. She's got an office in Burbank. I'm told she's very good. Evelyn looked out the window at the passing freeway. Her hands were folded in her lap, completely still, which I had learned over 32 years meant she was making a decision rather than reacting to one. Okay, she said. I'll call her. 3 days passed. They were quiet days outwardly. Maisie settled into the rhythm of Mariposa Street with the adaptability that children have when the adults around them are calm enough to fake it convincingly. She learned which drawer in the kitchen held the good cereal, claimed the left side of the guest bed as definitively hers, and developed a strong opinion about which of Diane's 2 cats was superior. She named the wooden horse Captain, and staged elaborate rescue missions involving couch cushions and a laundry basket. Evelyn kept herself busy in the deliberate, slightly brittle way of someone who understands that stopping means feeling, and feeling right now means losing ground. She called Dr. Sandra Okafor's office on the 28th and got an appointment scheduled for the second week of January. She reorganized every document in her email into folders. She made lists. She woke up before Maisie every morning and was already showered and dressed when her daughter padded into the kitchen because Evelyn had decided, without saying, so that Maisie was not going to see her mother fall apart at breakfast. I watched all of this and said nothing because it was not the moment for words. I made coffee. I kept the refrigerator stocked. I fixed the sticky latch on the guest room window that had been bothering me for 2 months and never seemed urgent until now. On the evening of the 30th, I was in the kitchen washing up after dinner when Evelyn made a sound from the living room that stopped me cold. It wasn't a cry. It was something shorter and sharper than that. A small, involuntary sound, the kind that escapes before you can catch it, like the sound you make when you touch something unexpectedly hot. I dried my hands and walked to the doorway. Evelyn was sitting on the couch with her phone held out in front of her, her arm rigid like she was trying to keep the screen at a distance. Her face had gone the particular white of someone who has just had a suspicion, confirmed in a way they were still hoping to avoid. Kendra posted, she said. Her voice was very flat. Pictures of her new room. She turned the phone toward me. The photo was bright and carefully staged in the way of someone who wanted the moment to look spontaneous. New bedding, a string of fairy lights along the wall, a small potted plant on the windowsill that I was fairly certain had been in Evelyn and Preston's bedroom 2 weeks ago. And there on the desk in the background, not centered, not featured, but clearly visible to anyone who knew what they were looking for, was a silver MacBook Pro. I took the phone from Evelyn's hand and looked at the image for a moment. Then I handed it back. Pull up your Apple receipt, I said. Evelyn's fingers moved to her email. She found the purchase confirmation in under a minute and read the serial number aloud. It was a long string of letters and numbers, the kind that looks random but isn't, and she read it twice slowly while I listened. Now look at the photo again, I said. Can you zoom in on the laptop? She did. The image pixelated slightly with the magnification, but the serial number sticker on the bottom edge of the machine, just visible above the desk surface, came into focus enough to read the first several characters. They matched. Evelyn set the phone down on the cushion beside her, very carefully the way you set down something fragile. She pressed both hands flat against her thighs. Her chin was trembling, but her eyes had gone hard and bright, the look of someone who has moved past hurt into something more functional. She didn't even hide it, Evelyn said. Her voice had an edge to it now, thin and precise. She just put it on the desk and took pictures of it and posted them on the internet. She didn't think you'd see it, I said. Or she didn't think you'd do anything about it if you did. Evelyn picked the phone back up. Her thumbs moved across the keyboard with the focused, unhurried speed of someone who has thought carefully about every word before they start typing. She showed me the message before she sent it. It read, "Kendra, the laptop on your desk and the photo you posted tonight is mine. I have the original Apple Store receipt with the serial number. It matches the number visible in your image. You have 24 hours to return it to my father's address before I file a police report for theft under California Penal Code 484. I won't be following up on this message." I read it twice. "Send it," I said. She sent it. Then she put the phone face down on the cushion, reached over to the end table for the mug of tea she'd been ignoring for an hour, and took a long sip. Her hand was steady. "She's not going to respond," Evelyn said. No, I agreed, but she's going to return it. We were both right. Kendra did not respond that night or the following morning, but at 7:03 the next morning, December 31st, the last day of a year that had delivered more in 1 week than most years, managed in 12 months, my doorbell camera recorded Kendra's car pulling up to the curb on Mariposa Street. She sat in the car for nearly 2 minutes. Then she got out, walked quickly to the porch, set the laptop on the mat in front of the door, and walked back to her car without knocking, without leaving a note, without looking up at the camera she almost certainly knew was there. She drove away. I brought the laptop inside and set it on the kitchen table. Evelyn came downstairs 20 minutes later, saw it, and stood very still for a moment. Then Maisie appeared behind her in the doorway, rubbing her eyes. Captain the wooden horse dangling from one hand. "Is that Mommy's computer?" she asked. "It is," Evelyn said. She picked it up, turned it over, checked the serial number against her phone one final time. Then she set it down and looked at me with an expression that was tired and clear, and underneath everything, something that was almost steady. "They know they're wrong," I said. "They do." She pulled out a chair and sat down. "But they still didn't say sorry." "No," I said. "They never do." Maisie climbed into the chair beside her mother, set Captain on the table, and reached for the cereal box. The morning went on. The new year arrived without ceremony on Mariposa Street. I had never been a person who made much of New Year's Eve. 30 years of running a property management business had cured me of any attachment to the idea that a calendar change constitutes a fresh start. Fresh starts are made on ordinary Tuesdays by people who have decided to make them. Still, I sat up until midnight with Evelyn, the two of us on the back porch with mugs of decaf and the distant sound of fireworks somewhere over the San Gabriel Mountains. And when the clock turned, I said, "Next year will be different," and meant it in the specific operational way of someone who has already begun making it so. Evelyn looked at the sky and said, "It already is." 4 days into January, Preston called. Not Evelyn's phone this time, mine. I was in my office reviewing a lease renewal when the call came in, and I looked at his name on the screen for a moment before I answered. The Preston who had appeared on my porch on the 26th with grocery store flowers and red-rimmed eyes was one version of this man. I had a feeling the version calling my number in the first week of January was going to be a different one. I was right. "Walter?" His voice was measured and businesslike, the voice of someone who had made a decision to stop leading with emotion and try a different approach entirely. "I want to talk about the SUV. What about it?" "Evelyn has been driving it since before Maisie was born. It's been used as a family vehicle throughout our marriage. Under California community property law, assets acquired or used during a marriage are subject to equitable division, and I think we both know that vehicle has appreciated in value." A pause, the kind that's designed to sound reasonable. "I'm not looking to cause problems. I just want what's fair." I leaned back in my chair. Through the window, I could see the jacaranda tree in the side yard, bare in January, its branches making clean lines against the pale morning sky. "Preston," I said, "what color is the title on that vehicle?" A beat. The certificate of title, the registration document, what name appears on it?" Another pause, longer this time, with a different quality to it. I assumed. "Don't assume," I said. "I'll send you a copy." I ended the call, went to my filing cabinet, and pulled out the folder I had kept since the day I drove to the Toyota dealership in Glendale on a Thursday morning 4 years and 3 months ago. Evelyn had been 8 months pregnant. She and Preston had one car between them, an aging sedan with a check engine light that had been on so long it had become part of the dashboard aesthetic. And I had decided, without making an announcement about it, that my daughter was not going to be driving a newborn home from Cedars-Sinai in a car with a persistent electrical fault. I had paid for the SUV outright. I had put it in my name because it was my money and my purchase, and I had learned over 60 years that clarity in paperwork prevents confusion later. The vehicle had never been transferred. The registration renewed each year and my name automatically, the bill coming to my address. I took a photograph of the title document with my phone, clear, well lit, every line of text readable. I sent it to Preston's number with a single line of text beneath it. This is my vehicle. Evelyn has been borrowing it. It is not a marital asset. Then I called Raymond. I need you to log a timestamp on a text exchange I just had with Preston Hale, I said when he picked up. I've sent him documentation showing I am the registered owner of the vehicle Evelyn drives. I want a record of when that information was provided. Done, Raymond said. Anything else? Not today. I put the phone down and sat for a moment thinking about the particular audacity required to call your estranged wife's father and make a legal argument about a car you have never paid a cent toward. It wasn't surprising exactly. It was clarifying. Every move Preston made was teaching me something about the architecture of his thinking, and what I was learning was that he did not have a sentimental bone in his body when it came to assets. The tears on my porch had been real enough, I believed that, but they had not prevented him from spending the days since then cataloging what he might be able to claim. That afternoon, I found Evelyn in the backyard with Maisie. The two of them crouched over something near the base of the fence that had caught Maisie's attention. A beetle, it turned out large and glossy and apparently fascinating. Maisie was narrating its movements in a serious, authoritative tone, like a nature documentary presenter who had not yet learned to modulate her volume. "He's going very fast," Maisie announced. "He has 6 legs," I counted. "You did count," Evelyn confirmed, her voice soft and present. She was crouched beside her daughter, with her forearms on her knees, and for a moment watching them from the back door, she looked less like someone in the middle of the worst months of her life and more like herself. I stepped out onto the porch. "Preston called," I said. Evelyn looked up. Something moved across her face, quick and tired. "He wanted the SUV," I said. "I sent him the title. It's in my name. It's been in my name since the day I bought it." I paused. "He won't be calling about that again." Evelyn held my gaze for a moment. Then she exhaled a long, slow breath, and some of the tension went out of her shoulders. "Thank you, Dad." "Don't thank me," I said. "It was always mine." Maisie stood up abruptly, having concluded her study of the beetle. "Grandpa," she said, with the focused urgency of a 4-year-old who has moved on to the next item on her agenda, "did you know that beetles have wings under their shells?" "I did know that," I said. "They hide them," she said with great satisfaction, "so nobody knows they're there until they need them." She trotted back inside to tell Captain the horse about the beetle. Evelyn watched her go. Then she looked at me, and I could see in her face that she was thinking the same thing. I was thinking that sometimes a 4-year-old says exactly the right thing without having any idea she's doing it. I didn't say anything about it. Some moments carry their own meaning and don't need help. But later that evening, after Maisie was in bed and Evelyn was sitting at the kitchen table with her laptop open and a cup of tea going cold beside her, I noticed she was going through her email again, not looking for receipts this time, looking for something else. I was about to ask what, when my phone buzzed on the counter. A text from a number I didn't recognize. At first, then placed one of my longest-standing commercial tenants, a man named Gerald Fitch, who managed a dry cleaning operation in a strip mall I'd owned for 22 years. The message read, "Walter heard some things from the Hales about what's going on. Wanted to say it doesn't sound right to me. Call if you want to talk." I read it twice. Set the phone down. Heard some things from the Hales, so that was starting. We're halfway through this story, and I promise you what's coming is worse than what you've already heard. If you're still with me, type 10 in the comments right now. Let me know you haven't left. Revenge Dad. Readers always stay for the part that matters most. A quick note, this story contains fictional elements woven in for reflection and storytelling. It may not reflect any one person's experience. If that's not your thing, no hard feelings, you can step away here. Gerald Fitch was not the last. Over the following week, I received 2 more calls from people I had known for years. A woman named Patricia, who managed the HOA in a residential complex I'd handled for a decade, and a retired contractor named Bud Sellers, who had done work on 4 of my properties and considered himself a friend, which he was. Both calls had the same uncomfortable shape to them, a slow approach, some throat clearing, and then a version of the same question asked with varying degrees of directness. Patricia said, "Walter, I've been hearing some things through the grapevine, and I just want you to know that I'm not one to take sides, but I did want to ask you directly." Bud was blunter. The Hales are telling people you used a loan to control their family, and now you're trying to take their house. That true? I told them both the same thing. No, but I appreciate you coming to me directly. And then I said I'd be in touch. I didn't say more than that, because I had learned over many decades that the first response to a lie is almost never the most effective one. Reacting immediately makes you look defensive. Defending yourself in the same breath as the accusation ties you to it. You wait. You let the lie do its work. And then when the time is right, you produce the paper. What I needed first was to know exactly what paper I had. On a Thursday morning in the third week of January, while Evelyn was at her first meeting with Dr. Okafor and Maisie was at Diane's, I went down to the basement. The box was on the middle shelf behind two plastic bins of tax records and a box of tools I kept meaning to sort through. It was a standard banker's box, the kind with the removable lid, and it had been down there for 2 years without being opened. There was a thin film of dust on the top that I wiped off with the sleeve of my shirt before I carried it upstairs. I set it on the kitchen table and took the lid off. The promissory note was on top exactly where I'd left it. I set it aside and went through the rest of the contents methodically the way I go through everything one item at a time, in order, no skipping ahead. The first email from Vernon was dated 26 months ago. I had read it so many times by now that I no longer needed to. But I read it again anyway because there is a difference between remembering something and seeing it on paper in front of you. A man who had refused charity and demanded a contract. A man whose wife was now telling the neighbors I had used money to control them. I set the email aside and kept going. There were 11 emails in total from Vernon requesting extensions on the repayment schedule. They spanned 18 months. The language shifted over time. The early ones were formal and almost combative. The later ones shorter, more worn down the writing of a man who had given up pretending the situation was temporary. The most recent one, sent 8 months ago, said simply, "Walter, need another month. Things are tight. Thanks." No explanation, no projected timeline, no acknowledgement that this was the 9th extension in a row. Then there were the messages from Claudia. These were texts, not emails, 12 of them spread across 14 months. Reading them in sequence was like watching someone slowly forget that they had ever been reluctant to ask for anything. The first one, from early in the first year, was carefully worded. "Hi, Walter. I hope things are going well. I wanted to reach out about Maisie's daycare. We've had an unexpected month financially, and I was wondering if there was any possibility of some temporary help with the payments. Of course, only if it's not an inconvenience." By the 6th message, the careful wording was gone. "Walter, the daycare bill came, and Preston's short this month. Can you cover it? By the 12th, insurance renewal is up. You should handle it. You should handle it." I sat at my kitchen table with 12 text messages laid out in front of me. I had printed them because I am 60 years old, and I print things, and I thought about a woman who had told her neighbors I used money to control her family. The same woman who had 14 months ago sent me a text message telling me I should handle the insurance renewal. I thought about Vernon, who had insisted on a formal contract because he refused to accept charity, and who had then spent 26 months treating that contract like a polite suggestion. I thought about Preston, who had answered his mother's message with 2 words I understand, and then driven away from his own house on Christmas Eve while his daughter's suitcase sat on the porch. I stacked the papers carefully and put them back in the box in the same order I'd found them. I was not ready to use any of this yet. The right moment matters as much as the right information, and I had not arrived at the right moment, but I needed to know what I had, and now I knew. I carried the box back to the basement. On the bottom step, I took out my phone and called Raymond. "I need everything in that box scanned and converted to PDF," I said. "All of it. Emails, texts, the promissory note, the extension requests. Everything." "How soon?" Raymond said. "End of the week." Done. A pause. "Walter, are you all right?" I thought about that for a moment. Through the basement ceiling I could hear the house above me. Quiet settled the particular quality of silence that a house has when it is holding people who are safe. "I'm fine," I said. "I just needed to know what I was working with." I came back upstairs and put the kettle on. When Evelyn came home an hour later from her meeting with Dr. Okafor, she looked like someone who had handed a very heavy bag to a professional and been told it was manageable. Tired, but differently tired than before. The tired of someone who has started something rather than someone who is still deciding whether to. "How was it?" I asked. "Hard," she said. "And good." She set her bag on the chair by the door. "She wants to talk about the financial picture next session. She said I should start pulling together records of joint accounts contributions, anything documented. She paused. She said it matters that I have a paper trail. Good, I said. So does your father. Evelyn looked at me for a moment, and in her expression I could see the beginning of something, not quite relief, but the shape of it, the outline of what relief might look like when it finally arrived. Okay, she said quietly. Okay. From Diane's house across the street came the sound of small feet on a porch, and then Maisie's voice carrying over the front yard, loud and certain, and entirely herself. Grandpa? I'm home. Did you miss me? I went to the front door and opened it. Every minute I called back. The text started on a Wednesday. I know it was a Wednesday because Evelyn had taken Maisie to a story, time at the Glendale Public Library that morning, something she had started doing the week before, a small deliberate act of normalcy that she was building into their new routine, and I was at my desk going through property inspection reports when I heard her come home. The front door opened. Maisie's voice came down the hallway, announcing that the librarian had read a book about a penguin, and the penguin had been very funny. And then a few minutes later, Evelyn appeared in my office doorway, holding her phone with an expression I had not seen on her face before. Not hurt, not angry. Something more complicated than either of those, the expression of someone who has been struck in a place they thought they had protected. He sent me photos, she said. She held the phone out. I took it and looked. Preston had sent 4 images in a row. The first was a wedding photo, the two of them on the steps of the venue in Pasadena, Evelyn in her dress laughing at something off camera, the afternoon light catching her hair. The second was a hospital photo. Evelyn in a bed with a newborn Maisie on her chest. Preston beside them, with his face pressed against Evelyn's temple, his eyes closed. The third was Maisie's first birthday, all 3 of them on the floor, surrounded by wrapping paper. Maisie wearing a frosting-covered expression of pure bewilderment. The fourth was Christmas the year before. Last Maisie in pajamas at the top of the stairs. Preston and Evelyn below her, with their arms around each other. All 3 of them looking up at the camera with the unguarded happiness of people who do not know yet what is coming. I looked at each one, then I handed the phone back. Below the photos Preston had written, I know you're angry, I understand why, but I keep looking at these and thinking about what we're doing to our daughter. Maisie deserves to grow up with her parents together. Kids need that. You know they do. I'm asking you to think about her, not about me. Evelyn set the phone face down on the edge of my desk and pressed both palms flat on the wood on either side of it, like she was trying to hold herself to the surface of something solid. He's going to keep doing this, she said, and her voice had a raw, fractured quality to it. The voice of someone whose throat aches. Every time I start to feel steady, he's going to send me something like that, and I'm going to fall apart all over again. Probably, I said, because lying to her wasn't going to help either of us. She looked up at me, her eyes bright with tears she was refusing to let fall. She does ask about him, Dad. She asked me last night why Daddy doesn't come for dinner. I told her Daddy was busy, and she said, okay, and went back to her drawing, and I went into the bathroom and sat on the floor for 10 minutes. Her chin trembled. She's 4. She doesn't understand why her life changed. She just knows it did. I know, I said. So what do I do with that? Her voice broke on the last word, and 2 tears escaped down her cheeks, and she wiped them away hard, almost angrily. How do I look at those pictures and not think that maybe Evelyn? I said her name quietly, not to stop her, but to make sure she heard what came next. Do you remember the night I picked you up? She looked at me. Maisie was in your arms and she was shaking, I said. She wasn't shaking because you left. She was shaking because the people in that house made it so that standing outside in the cold on Christmas Eve was safer than staying inside. I leaned forward slightly. Preston knew that was going to happen. He packed her bag himself 3 days before. He answered his mother's message and drove away, and left you both there. Those photographs are real. That life was real. And so was Christmas Eve. Evelyn pressed her lips together. A fresh wave of tears came, and she let them this time, her shoulders dropping one hand, coming up to cover her mouth as a sob moved through her. I came around the desk and put my hand on her back and held it there steady while she cried. Not the kind of crying that resolves things, the kind that just has to happen, that has been happening in pieces for weeks and keeps finding new corners to move through. After a while, she straightened up, took a breath, reached for the box of tissues on my desk and used 2 of them with the pragmatic efficiency of someone who cries regularly and has made her peace with it. He's going to send more, she teed steadier now. Yes, I said. He is. And I'm going to feel this every time. Probably. She looked at the phone still face down on the desk. Then she picked it up, turned it over, and put it in her pocket without looking at the screen. Okay, she said. Okay. Over the following days, the messages kept coming. A video of Maisie's first steps, shaky footage from a phone held sideways. Maisie lurching across the living room in the old house while Preston's voice off camera said, "Come on, come on, come on," in a tone of such naked delight that it made my chest hurt to watch it, and I was not even the intended recipient. Oh, a note. Maisie asked for you last night, Ev. She wanted Daddy to read her story. I told her you'd be back soon. I hope I wasn't wrong. A photograph of the corner of Maisie's room in the Pasadena house, the one with the painted stars on the ceiling that Preston had done himself the weekend before Maisie was born, staying up until 2 in the morning with a stencil kit and a roller. Each message landed on Evelyn like something physical. I watched her read them and absorb them and put her phone away and go back to whatever she was doing, with the focused determination of someone walking into a headwind. She did not respond to any of them, but I could see what they were doing to her the way water does something to stone, not all at once, but consistently over time. One evening I found her sitting on the edge of the guest bed after she had put Maisie down in the dark, her phone in her hands and her face in the particular stillness of someone having a conversation with themselves that they haven't finished yet. I stood in the doorway. "I know what he's doing," she said without looking up. Her voice was quiet but not lost the voice of someone who understands a thing and is still struggling with it, because understanding doesn't make it stop hurting. "I know exactly what he's doing. It doesn't make it stop working." "I know," I said. She looked up at me then, and in her face was the exhausted, clear-eyed look of someone who has been treading water for a long time and knows exactly how tired they are. "He told me once early on that the thing he loved about me was that I never stopped fighting for the people I cared about," she said. "I think he's counting on that now." A breath. "I think he's counting on me to fight for him the same way." She put the phone face down on the mattress. "I have an appointment with Dr. Okafor on Thursday," she said. "I'm going to ask her what comes next." I nodded. "Good." From down the hall, Maisie made a small sound in her sleep. Not distress, just the ordinary murmuring of a child, deep in a dream, and both of us turned toward it instinctively, the way parents and grandparents do, checking the frequency of the sound before deciding it needs a response. It didn't. Maisie settled. The house went quiet again. "Get some sleep," I told Evelyn. She nodded, but she was looking at the wall, and I could see she was going to be awake for a long time yet. I went back to my own room and lay in the dark and thought about a man who had stayed up until 2 in the morning painting stars on a ceiling for his unborn daughter, and then driven away from that same daughter on Christmas Eve without looking back. Both of those things were true. That was the part that made it hard. On a Thursday morning, in the first week of February, I woke up to find the house quieter than usual. Maisie was still asleep. That was normal enough. She had inherited her mother's preference for sleeping, until the last possible moment, a trait I had never managed to cultivate myself. But Evelyn's door was open and her room was empty, and when I went downstairs, I found her coffee mug rinsed and upside down on the drying rack, which meant she had been up early enough to finish a full cup before leaving. Her car was gone from the driveway. She hadn't mentioned going anywhere. I made my own coffee, fed the sourdough starter I'd been keeping on the counter since November, and sat at the kitchen table with a property report I needed to finish before noon. When Maisie woke up an hour later, I told her Mommy had gone to take care of something and would be back soon. Maisie accepted this, ate her cereal, and spent the morning teaching Captain the horse to navigate an obstacle course she built from couch cushions and stacked hardcover books. Diane came by at 10 with a cutting from her Meyer lemon tree and stayed for 40 minutes. We talked about the tree and about her sister's hip replacement, and about the family of raccoons that had taken up residence behind the dry cleaner on Brand Boulevard. And we did not talk about Evelyn, because Diane was wise enough to know that some things announce themselves when they were ready. Evelyn came home at noon. She set her bag down by the door, with the careful, deliberate movement of someone who is thinking about something else entirely, and when she looked up and saw me at the kitchen table, her face did something complicated. Not quite guilt, not quite relief. The expression of someone who has done something they're not sure yet was the right thing and hasn't finished processing it. "I met Preston," she said. I put down my pen. She told me about it that evening, after Maisie was in bed, all of it start to finish, sitting across from me at the kitchen table with her hands wrapped around a mug of chamomile tea that had gone cold 20 minutes into the telling. This is what she said. Preston had texted her the day before. Not another photograph this time. A straightforward message asking if they could meet in person somewhere neutral just to talk. He said he had something he wanted to propose, and he thought they owed it to Maisie to at least hear each other out. She had said yes without telling me because she had known I would not tell her not to go, and she had not wanted to have the conversation about why she was going. He was already there when she arrived, a coffee shop on Magnolia Boulevard in Burbank, the kind of place with exposed brick and pour-over options, and a line out the door on weekday mornings that had thinned to a handful of customers by the time she got there at 10. He was at a corner table out of his coat, sitting forward with his hands around a cup of coffee, and she said he looked like himself. Not the red-eyed version from the porch in December, not the measured businesslike voice on the phone in January. Just Preston. The one she had married. That was the hardest part, she said, that he looked like himself. He had laid it out carefully the way he always did when he had thought something through in advance. A fresh start. Not going back to the Pasadena house, he knew that wasn't possible. A new apartment somewhere in Silver Lake or Los Feliz. Just the three of them away from his parents. He had even looked at listings, he said. He pulled up his phone and showed her 2 bedrooms, a small yard, a street with trees. He said Maisie would have her own room. He said he had been thinking about what it would take to actually change, and he believed he could. He was persuasive. Evelyn said so herself, without resentment, just as a statement of fact. He was good at this, at making a picture of things so clear and appealing that you could almost step into it. She had listened to all of it. She had looked at the apartment listings. She had asked questions, and he had answered them. And for 20 minutes she had sat in a coffee shop in Burbank and felt the pull of the life he was describing, the one where none of this had happened, the way it happened, or where it had happened, and they had found their way through it and come out the other side. And then she had put her coffee cup down and looked at him and said, "Before I make any decision, I want to see our complete financial picture, both of us, everything. Bank accounts, debts, credit cards, any loans. I want full transparency before we talk about anything else." She said the change in his face was not gradual. It was immediate, a door closing behind the eyes, the warmth contracting the careful openness he had been wearing for the last 40 minutes, replaced by something more guarded. "Ev," he said, "that's not love, isn't a balance sheet." "I know that," she said. "I'm not asking about love. I'm asking about our finances. If you can't trust me enough to—" Preston. She said his name the way you say something when you want it to land cleanly without decoration. "I'm not asking you to prove you love me. I'm asking you to show me what we're working with. If you want to build something new, we need to start from an honest place. That means I need to see everything." He looked at her for a long moment. "A love shouldn't require an audit," he said finally, and his voice had shifted into something that was trying to sound wounded and instead sounded rehearsed, and she heard the difference. She picked up her bag. She took out her wallet, put a $10 bill on the table for her coffee, and pushed back her chair. "If you change your mind about the transparency," she said, "you know how to reach me." She walked out. What she did not tell Preston, she told me she had filed for divorce 6 weeks earlier. Dr. Okafor had submitted the paperwork in the 3rd week of December, citing irreconcilable differences as California law allows, and the financial discovery process had been running in parallel ever since. The meeting at the coffee shop was not Evelyn looking for a reason to go back. It was Evelyn giving Preston one final opportunity to be honest with her before the process made honesty irrelevant. He hadn't taken it. When she finished telling me all of this, she drank the last cold inch of her chamomile tea and set the mug down. "Was it the right thing to go?" she asked, not defensively, genuinely. "Yes," I said. "You needed to know what he would do when you asked him a direct question. Now you know." She nodded slowly, turning the empty mug in her hands. "Dr. Okafor said the discovery report should be ready within the next few weeks," she said. "She said there were some irregularities in the financial records that she wanted to look at more carefully." I kept my face neutral. "All right," I said. "Let her look." Evelyn set the mug down and looked at the table, and I could see she was tired in the bone-deep way of someone who has been making hard decisions for weeks, and still has more of them ahead. "He looked like himself, Dad," she said quietly. "That's the thing. He just looked like himself." "I know," I said. "I keep waiting for it to stop being hard." "It will," I said. "Not yet, but it will." She pushed back from the table, said goodnight, and went upstairs. I sat for a while longer listening to the house settle around me and thought about a $10 bill on a coffee shop table in Burbank and what it costs to close a door on something you still partly love. The report arrived on a Tuesday. Not in the mail, Dr. Okafor sent it through her client portal, a secure document system that required a password and a second verification step. The kind of layered precaution that exists, because the information inside it tends to matter enormously to the people receiving it. Evelyn had set up her account at the first appointment. She had been checking it every few days since the way you check something when you're dreading it and can't stop anyway. I was in the backyard with Maisie when it came through. We had found a patch of the garden that got good afternoon sun, and Maisie had decided with the unilateral authority of a 4-year-old that this was where we were going to plant something. She had not specified what. The decision about what to plant was still under negotiation, though she had made it clear that it needed to be something that produced either flowers or food, and ideally both, and that Captain the Horse would be involved in the planting ceremony in some capacity. We were in the middle of this discussion when the back door opened and Evelyn stepped out onto the patio. I knew from her face that the report had arrived. She was holding her phone against her sternum, with both hands pressing it flat, like she was trying to keep the contents inside the device, rather than letting them exist in the open air. Her face was the kind of still that is not calm, the stillness of someone who has received a blow and is in the half second before they feel it. Maisie. I said, "Can you go inside and wash your hands for me? We'll figure out the planting plan after." Maisie looked between the two of us with the instinctive social awareness of a child who has learned to read adult faces. "Is Mommy okay?" she asked. "Mommy's fine," Evelyn said, and her voice came out steady, which was either a considerable act of will or the particular numbness that sometimes arrives ahead of pain. "Go wash your hands, baby. I'll be right in." Maisie went inside. Evelyn came down the patio steps and sat on the garden bench, and I came and sat beside her. She unlocked her phone and opened the document, and we read it together, her holding the phone between us so we could both see the screen. Dr. Okafor had written the summary section in plain language the way good attorneys do when they know the person reading it is not a lawyer and the information is going to be hard to absorb. The first page was an overview. The second page was where the numbers started. Preston Hale had, at the time of filing, the following outstanding debts that had not been disclosed in any prior financial conversation, with Evelyn, 4 credit cards carrying balances totaling $31,400. 2 personal loans, one from an online lender, one from a credit union, totaling an additional $15,600. The combined total was $47,000. The earliest of these accounts had been opened 4 years ago. 2 of the credit card accounts had been opened in the 18 months before Christmas Eve. Dr. Okafor noted that the spending patterns did not reflect shared household expenses, travel entertainment purchases made in locations Evelyn had never been. Evelyn read the numbers once, then she read them again slowly, as though she was making sure she understood the language they were written in. $47,000, she said. Not a question, not an exclamation, just the number spoken aloud to confirm it was real. "Yes," I said. She scrolled to the next page. Dr. Okafor had included a note about the legal implications, and I read it over Evelyn's shoulder. In California, she explained, debts incurred during a marriage are generally considered community property, meaning both spouses may share responsibility for them, regardless of whose name the accounts are in. However, debts that can be demonstrated to have been incurred for one spouse's individual benefit, with no corresponding benefit to the marital household, may be argued as separate debt in proceedings. Dr. Okafor noted that several of the accounts appeared to have been used for purposes unrelated to shared household expenses, and that she intended to make this argument on Evelyn's behalf. Evelyn read that section twice as well. Then she lowered the phone to her lap and looked at the garden in front of us. The patch of afternoon sun, the turned soil, the bare beds waiting for whatever we decided to put in them. "He came to that coffee shop," she said. "He showed me apartment listings in Silver Lake. He talked about fresh starts and what Maisie deserves." Her voice was not shaking. It had gone somewhere past shaking into a register that was quiet and clear and very, very tired. He had $47,000 of debt he'd never mentioned, and he sat across from me and talked about building something new. She pressed her lips together hard. Her eyes filled, and she blinked, and 2 tears ran down her face, and she left them there. "The credit score," she said. "That's what this is. That's why he kept reaching out. That's why the coffee shop, the photos Maisie asks for Daddy every night." She turned to look at me, and in her expression was the particular devastation of understanding something completely that you had been half hoping you were wrong about. He needs me to come back because my income and my credit score are the only things keeping him financially viable. It's not about us. It was never about us. My chest tightened in a way I had no useful response to. I had suspected this. Raymond had suspected it from the moment Preston started making legal arguments about marital assets in the first week of January. But suspecting a thing and having it confirmed in a document are not the same experience, and watching my daughter confirm it in a garden in February while Maisie washed her hands inside was something I was going to carry for a long time. I did not say I told you so because I had not told her so, and because it would not have helped if I had. I did not say I'm sorry because it was inadequate. I reached over and put my hand over hers where it rested on the phone, and I kept it there. After a while, Evelyn wiped her face with the heel of her other hand, a single efficient gesture, and sat up straighter. Dr. Okafor said she's going to push to have the debts classified as his separate liability wherever possible, Evelyn said. She said the documentation supports it. A breath. She also said I should think about whether there are any other financial entanglements I might not be aware of. Joint accounts co-signed anything recurring payments. There's nothing you've missed, I said. I've been over it with Raymond. She nodded, then something shifted in her face. Not relief, not yet, but the beginning of the orientation toward it, the way you turn toward warmth before you can feel it. What did you plant here when I was little? She asked, looking at the garden bed. The question came out of nowhere and made complete sense. Tomatoes, I said. You used to eat them off the vine before they were ripe, and then complain about your stomach. She made a sound that was almost a laugh. Almost. Maisie would do that too. Probably, I said. We sat in the afternoon sun for a little while longer. The back door opened and Maisie appeared, hands held out in front of her to demonstrate their cleanliness, still negotiating the terms of the planting ceremony. I think Captain should hold the seeds, she announced, because he's the one who knows the garden best. Evelyn looked at her daughter, this small, certain, utterly self-possessed person, standing in the doorway with clean hands and strong opinions about horses, and her face did something that was too complicated to name. Love, I think, is what it was, the kind that survives things. That makes complete sense, Evelyn said. Come here and tell me what we're planning. Maisie came down the steps, sat between us on the bench, and began to explain her vision. I listened to my daughter listen to her daughter, and thought that whatever came next this moment was not nothing. Later that evening, after Maisie was in bed, my phone rang. Vernon Hale's name on the screen. He had never called me directly before, not once in 4 years of knowing him. It was always through Claudia, or through Preston, or through a politely worded message left with Raymond. I looked at his name on the screen for a long moment. Then I answered. Vernon Hale had a particular way of speaking that I had noticed the very first time I met him at a dinner at a restaurant in Arcadia 4 years ago, when Evelyn had brought Preston home to introduce the families. He spoke in complete sentences, always with a formality that was not quite natural, the formality of a man who had decided at some point in his life that careful diction was a form of authority, and had been practicing it ever since. He never used contractions if he could avoid them. He did not say can't, he said cannot. He did not say didn't, he said did not. It created the impression of precision, of someone who chose every word deliberately. What I had learned over 4 years was that the precision was a performance. Underneath it, Vernon Hale was a man who made decisions based on what was comfortable and then constructed justifications afterward. The careful sentences were the justifications. The decisions had already been made. He spoke in complete sentences now. Hey, Walter, he said, I want you to understand that what happened at Christmas was not something I orchestrated. That was Preston's idea. He came to us with a plan, and Claudia and I, we went along with it because he is our son, and we trusted his judgment. I want you to know that I personally had reservations. I sat at the kitchen table in the dark and let him finish. I am not saying what happened was right, he continued. I am saying that I was not the architect of it. Preston is 35 years old. He makes his own decisions. Claudia and I were simply trying to support our son through a difficult time in his marriage, and perhaps we did not ask enough questions about how he intended to handle things. He stopped. I could hear him breathing on the other end, steady and controlled, the breathing of a man who had rehearsed this and was waiting to see how it landed. Are you finished? I asked, a beat. Yes, for now. All right, I said. I want you to do something for me, Vernon. Tomorrow morning, I want you to call Evelyn and tell her exactly what you just told me. That it was Preston's plan, that you had reservations, that you went along with it because he is your son. I paused. Tell her to her face. The silence that followed was different from the silences earlier in the call. Those had been the silences of a man composing himself between prepared statements. This one was the silence of a man who had arrived at the edge of something and discovered he did not want to cross it. Walter, he said, I do not think that would be productive. Why not? Because she is emotional right now. She would not receive it well. It would only make things worse. Or, I said, you don't want to say it to her face because saying it to me costs you nothing, and saying it to her costs you everything. I kept my voice even, not angry, just clear. You called me tonight because you thought I'd be easier. Because I'm the one with the loan documents and the notice of default and the thing you actually need, and you figured if you gave me a reason to think you weren't involved, maybe I'd be more inclined to be flexible about the repayment terms. Another silence, longer this time. That is not, he started. Vernon. I said his name the way you say something when you want the conversation to stop moving sideways and go somewhere direct. You signed a promissory note. You have defaulted on that note for 10 months. I have not moved against the property yet, because I have been, as I have always been, more patient with your family than the situation required. What happened on Christmas Eve changed that calculation. Not because I am angry, though I am, but because the document I signed says what it says, and I am no longer willing to pretend it doesn't. A breath from his end, then very quietly, the formality cracking just slightly at the edges. What do you want, Walter? I want you to call Raymond Cole's office. I said, and make arrangements to bring the account current. That's what the contract requires, and that's what I'm asking for. I stood up from the table phone to my ear and walked to the kitchen window. The street outside was dark and empty, the jacaranda tree making its winter silhouette against the glow of the neighbor's porch light. And if you want to tell your son's estranged wife that you had reservations about leaving her and your 4-year-old granddaughter on a porch on Christmas Eve, that's between you and her. I can't make you do it. But don't call me again hoping I'll make this easier for you, because I won't. And the notice of default, Vernon's voice had gone quieter, stripped of the rehearsed formality, and what was left was just an older man trying to understand how much trouble he was actually in. Is still in effect, I said. Raymond's number hasn't changed. I heard him exhale long and slow, the exhale of someone deflating. I am not a bad man, Walter, he said, and the complete sentences had finally given way. He sounded in that moment less like the man I'd sat across from at dinner in Arcadia 4 years ago, and more like someone much older and much less certain. I am not a bad man. I made mistakes. I thought about a piece of paper, useless, worthless, be gone before we get back. A 4-year-old's hands shaking in the cold. I know you believe that, I said. I ended the call. I stood at the kitchen window for a while, phone in my hand, looking at the jacaranda tree. After 30 years in business, I had learned that the people who say, I am not a bad man, in the middle of a conversation about the consequences of their actions, are almost always people who believe it completely. And almost always people for whom that belief has become the primary obstacle to them ever actually changing. Vernon Hale was not going to call Evelyn. I had known that before I suggested it. But I had needed to suggest it because the refusal was information. It told me exactly what his phone call had actually been about, and it confirmed what I had suspected since December. He was not sorry. He was scared. Those are not the same thing, and only one of them leads anywhere. I went to the bottom of the stairs and stood there for a moment listening. Evelyn's light was still on. I could see it under her door. Maisie's room was quiet. I thought about going up, decided against it. What I had to tell her could wait until morning, and she had had enough for one day. I went back to the kitchen and made a cup of tea I didn't particularly want, and sat at the table in the quiet house and thought about the loan documents upstairs in the wooden box and the photographs on Diane's phone and the PDF Raymond had sent me with every email and text message the Hale family had sent me over 26 months asking me for things. The paper was all there. I had known for weeks it was all there. What I was waiting for now was the right moment to use it, and I was beginning to think the right moment was getting closer. Evelyn's light went out at 11:47. I know because I was still sitting at the table when the sliver of yellow under her door disappeared, and I noted the time the way I note most things automatically without deciding to. I washed my cup, turned off the kitchen light, went to bed. Tomorrow was going to ask something of all of us. I wanted to be rested when it did. The message from Claudia arrived on a Thursday morning, while Evelyn was making Maisie's lunch. I was at my desk when I heard Evelyn's voice from the kitchen. Not a word, just a sound. The same short, involuntary sound she had made the night Kendra posted the Instagram photo. I pushed back from the desk and walked down the hallway. Evelyn was standing at the counter with her phone in one hand and a half-made peanut butter sandwich in the other. And she was reading the screen with the focused, unblinking attention of someone trying to make sure they understood exactly what they were looking at. Maisie was at the kitchen table, arranging crackers into what appeared to be a geometric pattern, narrating the process to Captain the Horse in a low, authoritative voice. "What is it?" I asked. Evelyn held the phone out to me without speaking. The message was from Claudia. It had been sent at 7:42 that morning, which meant she had been awake early and angry enough to start composing before 8 o'clock. It read, "Your father can stay angry as long as he wants, but he still has to help us. Maisie is his granddaughter. That doesn't stop because he's upset." I read it twice. Then I handed the phone back. Evelyn set it on the counter. She looked at it for a long moment, the sandwich still in her other hand, forgotten. Then she put the sandwich down too and pressed both palms flat on the counter and read the message again from where it sat. I stood across from her and said nothing, because the moment required observation, not commentary. There are times when the most useful thing a person can do is stay still and let someone else arrive at the thing they are in the process of understanding. Evelyn was in that process now. "She's not angry because of what they did," she said slowly. Her voice had the careful quality of someone thinking out loud, working something through in real time. "She's angry because it isn't working the way they planned. Because you're not—" She stopped, started again. "They thought you would be upset for a little while. They thought you'd be sad about it maybe. But they never thought you'd actually stop." She looked up at me, and in her eyes was something that had moved past hurt into a much colder kind of understanding. "They used Maisie, not as they didn't do it consciously maybe, but in their heads the fact that Maisie is your granddaughter was the reason you could never actually say no. It was the guarantee, the insurance policy." Her voice dropped. "That's what she just said, right there. He still has to help us. Not he might help us, or we hope he'll help us. Has to." She picked up the phone and read it one more time, and I watched her face as she read it the way you watch someone arrive at the last page of something. "All this time," she said, "I kept wondering if I was reading it wrong, if maybe it wasn't as calculated as it felt, if maybe they genuinely didn't understand what they were doing to us." She set the phone face down on the counter, but she wrote it in a text message at 7:42 in the morning. "He still has to help us. That's not a slip. That's just what they think." Maisie looked up from her crackers. "Mommy, is everything okay?" Evelyn turned toward her daughter, and the shift in her face was immediate and complete, like a light being redirected, all of it now aimed at Maisie. "Everything's fine, baby," she said. "You want apple slices with your lunch?" "Yes, please," Maisie said, and went back to her crackers. Evelyn got an apple from the bowl on the counter and started slicing it with quiet, steady hands. I watched her work the knife, moving through the apple in clean, even strokes, each slice falling away from the blade with the same controlled pressure. Her hands were not shaking. They had not been shaking since the morning she called Dr. Okafor, and I had noticed that, without saying so, the way you notice the weather changing without stopping to remark on it. After a moment, she said, without looking up from the apple, "I want to call Dr. Okafor today. I want to ask her how fast we can move." "I'll get Raymond on the phone this afternoon," I said. She nodded. A slice of apple fell away from the knife, and she caught it before it slid off the cutting board. Small, deft movement. Certain. I thought about the box in the basement. I thought about the PDFs Raymond had organized, every email, every text message, every extension request, the promissory note, the deed of trust, the photographs Diane had taken on Christmas Eve. I had been sitting with all of it for weeks waiting for the right moment. There is a version of patience that is simply delay, postponing a thing because you are not ready, or because you are afraid of what happens after you do it. And there is a different version of patience that is waiting for the moment when the other side has shown you everything they intend to show you, so that you do not move before the picture is complete. Claudia's message at 7:42 in the morning was the last piece. "I've been waiting," Evelyn said, still working the knife through the apple, "for some sign that they understood what they did. Some indication that it wasn't completely," she found the word, "deliberate." She set the knife down. "I don't think I'm going to get that." "No," I said. "I don't think you are." There was a quiet between us that was not uncomfortable. The kind of quiet that settles when two people have arrived at the same conclusion from different directions and do not need to say so out loud. Outside the kitchen window, the February morning was gray and flat, the kind of light that shows everything exactly as it is without flattering it. She arranged the apple slices in a neat fan on the plate beside Maisie's sandwich and carried it to the table. "Here you go, bug," she said, and kissed the top of Maisie's head. Maisie beamed up at her. "Can Captain have one?" "Captain can have a very small one," Evelyn said. She came back to the counter. She did not pick up her phone immediately. She stood for a moment, looking at the window, at the gray February light, with the particular stillness of someone who is not hesitating, but collecting herself, making sure she is ready for the thing she is about to do. The way you take a breath before you open a door, you know is going to be heavy. Then she reached for her phone and pulled up Dr. Okafor's number. I started to step back toward the hallway to give her the room to make the call privately. She shook her head once, a small movement, and I understood she wanted me there. Her jaw was set. Her eyes were clear. The last trace of uncertainty I had been watching her carry for 10 weeks. The part of her that had kept reading Preston's messages, kept looking at the photographs, kept waiting to feel differently about what they had done, had gone out of her face like weather passing. She pressed call. I stood in the kitchen doorway and listened to the line ring once, twice, and then Dr. Okafor's assistant picking up, and Evelyn giving her name in a voice that was steady and unhurried and entirely certain of itself. Behind her, Maisie was feeding Captain a small piece of apple slice, explaining in serious tones that horses needed fruit for energy, and that this was a fact she had recently established. I went back to my desk. I had a call to make, too. 3 days after Evelyn called Dr. Okafor, the house on Mariposa Street felt different. Not calmer exactly. More like the air after a storm has made its decision about which direction it's going, still charged, still heavy, but no longer uncertain. Evelyn moved through the days with a purposefulness that was new, checking items off lists, returning Dr. Okafor's emails within the hour, going through boxes of documents with the methodical patience of someone who has accepted that the work ahead is long and has decided to be equal to it. Maisie, who understood very little of what was happening and understood everything about her mother's energy, had become more settled herself. She woke up with her agenda already formed. Captain needed exercise, the garden needed checking. There were opinions to be expressed about breakfast, and she went about her days with the serene self-sufficiency of a child who knows she is held. I watched all of this and felt something I had not felt since Christmas Eve, something close to steady. Kendra called on a Tuesday afternoon. I was the one who saw it. First, Evelyn's phone lit up on the kitchen table while she was in the backyard with Maisie, and I went to the back door and called her in. When Evelyn saw the name on the screen, her expression shifted, uncertain, the way it does when someone unexpected reaches out from a direction you weren't guarding. She looked at me. "Answer it," I said. She picked up, put it on speaker without my asking. Kendra's voice came through tight and clipped the voice of someone who was angry about something specific and had decided to do something about it. "I need to tell you something," she said, without preamble, without greeting. "And I need you to know I'm not doing it to be nice. I'm doing it because I'm furious at my brother, and this is the only thing I have." Evelyn's eyebrows rose slightly. She leaned against the counter and kept her voice neutral. "Okay." Before Christmas, Kendra said, Mom put us all in a family group chat to plan what was happening on the 24th. I didn't. A pause. A breath that sounded like it cost her something. I didn't say anything because I thought maybe you'd be fine or that it wouldn't be as bad as it sounded. I took screenshots because I didn't want to get blamed for it later. That's the only reason I kept them. Her voice had an edge of defensiveness that told me she had been sitting with this for a while and had not fully resolved how she felt about her own role in it. Now they're making me pay rent to live in your room. Preston told me to just deal with it. So, Evelyn said carefully. So I'm sending you the screenshots. A beat. All of them. The phone on the counter vibrated twice, 3 times. Evelyn unlocked it and opened the images, and I came around the counter to read over her shoulder. The first screenshot showed the family group chat from December 21st. Claudia had written a message laying out the plan Evelyn and Maisie would be asked to leave on the evening of the 24th before the family departed for Palm Springs. Claudia's reasoning was laid out in the same careful managerial tone she used for everything, as though she were planning a catering order rather than removing her son's wife and child from their home on Christmas Eve. Kendra had responded with a single question mark. Nobody had answered it. The second screenshot was from December 22nd. This was the one that mattered. Preston had written, "What if she doesn't leave quietly? She can be stubborn." Claudia had responded, "Just let her go back to Walter for a few months. He'll pay for everything like before. Then when things settle down, you can bring her home, and it'll be like nothing happened." Preston had written back 4 minutes later, "Yeah, that works. She'll come back. She always does." Evelyn read it once. The phone was very still in her hands. She read it again. I watched her face as she read it the second time, and then the third. Each pass through the words did something different to her expression. The first time was shock, the second was the beginning of understanding. The third was something that went past both of those into a territory I did not have a precise name for. Not anger, not grief. The expression of someone who has just seen the entire architecture of the last several months, from an angle that makes everything visible at once. "She'll come back," Evelyn said. "She always does." Her voice was almost nothing, just breath and shape. "That's what he thought. That's what they all thought. That I would—" She stopped, pressed her lips together so hard they went pale. Her hands were trembling now, both of them, the phone shaking slightly between her fingers. Then she set the phone down on the counter very carefully. She walked to the hallway. I heard her go upstairs. The particular sound of her bedroom door opening, and then not closing all the way she left it when she wanted to be able to hear Maisie. Maisie was still in the backyard. I could see her through the kitchen window, crouched over something near the fence, Captain the horse tucked under one arm. I stood at the kitchen table and waited. When Evelyn came back downstairs, she was holding something in her right hand closed in her fist. She walked into the kitchen, looked at me for a moment with eyes that were red at the rims but steady, and then she opened her hand. The ring sat in the center of her palm. Plain gold band, the one Preston had put on her finger 8 years ago in a ceremony at a venue in Pasadena, while their families watched and nobody said what they might have said if they'd known what was coming. She set it on the kitchen table between us. "Dad!" she said. Her voice was quiet and clear, and absolutely certain the voice of someone who has arrived somewhere after a very long walk and recognizes the place. "I'm not going back." I looked at my daughter. I looked at the ring on the table. "Okay," I said. She exhaled long and slow, her shoulders dropping with it. Then she looked at the window, at Maisie crouched by the fence in the afternoon light, and something moved through her face that was too large and too complicated to name, but that I recognized anyway, because I had seen it once before on her mother's face a long time ago, in a moment that had also required everything. "I have something I need to do," I said. She looked at me. "The box," I said. "It's time." She held my gaze for a moment. Then she nodded once, and in that nod was everything the permission she hadn't needed to give, but gave anyway, the acknowledgement of what was coming, and the particular quiet courage of someone who has decided they are done being afraid of what happens next. I went downstairs to the basement. I brought the box upstairs and set it on the kitchen table. Evelyn was sitting across from me, the ring still between us on the wood, and when I lifted the lid and began laying the documents out, she watched without speaking. Her hands wrapped around a mug of tea, her face composed in the particular way of someone who has made a decision and is now watching the machinery of it begin to move. The promissory note, the deed of trust filing with Los Angeles County, Vernon's original email requesting the loan, the one where he had insisted on a formal arrangement, because he did not take charity. 11 emails requesting extensions spread across 18 months, each one a little more worn down than the last. The 12 text messages from Claudia, starting with careful politeness and ending with, "You should handle it." The photograph Diane had taken on Christmas Eve of Evelyn and Maisie standing on the porch in the cold. The screenshots Kendra had sent Preston's message sitting in the middle of the group chat. "She'll come back. She always does." The registration document for the SUV Walter Renshaw printed clearly in the owner field. I laid them out one by one in chronological order, the way you build a case that has to speak for itself. Raymond had already sent the PDFs. I had the file on my laptop, organized by date. That evening I wrote a single email, not a long one. I did not explain myself at length because people who need a great deal of explanation before they can understand something straightforward are usually not going to be convinced by more words. The email said, "I'm sending you some documents related to recent events involving my family. I'm not asking you to take sides. I'm asking you to read the dates and decide for yourself." I sent it to Gerald Fitch, to Patricia at the HOA, to Bud Sellers, to 4 other people who had reached out to me in January and February with versions of the same uncomfortable question, people who had known me long enough to deserve a direct answer. I attached the PDFs and hit send. Then I closed the laptop. Evelyn was still sitting across from me. She looked at the documents laid out between us, the whole history of it. 2.5 years of paper that told a story nobody in the Hale family had ever expected to be told. "Is that all of it?" she asked. "That's all of it," I said. She reached out and picked up the photograph Diane had taken. Evelyn and Maisie on the porch, 2 suitcases the dark house behind them, the cold visible in the way they were holding themselves. She looked at it for a long moment. Then she set it down face up and pushed back from the table. "I'm going to call about that apartment in Burbank," she said. "The 2-bedroom on Olive Avenue. Dr. Okafor said the timeline on the divorce should be clear enough now that I can start making plans." "Good," I said. "I'll need help with the deposit." "I know," I said. "That's what I'm here for." She looked at me with an expression that carried more than she said, the way hers always did. "Not forever, though," she said. "I'm going to pay my own rent." "I know that too," I said. She went to make the call. I sat at the table with the documents spread out in front of me and the ring still on the wood between the photograph and the promissory note. And I thought about what it costs to build something over 30 years, and what it means when someone tries to take it from you, and what it means when they fail. The responses came back within 48 hours. Gerald Fitch called and said, "I should have asked you first. I'm sorry, Walter." Patricia sent an email, 2 lines apologizing for having taken the question to me the way she had. Bud Sellers left a voicemail that was mostly him, exhaling and saying well several times before he arrived at, "Those people have some nerve." 3 of the other 4 responded in similar terms. The 4th did not respond, which told me something about the 4th. The calls from Vernon and Claudia stopped. Not gradually all at once the way a faucet stops when you close the valve. They did not call Raymond. They did not call Evelyn. The story about Walter Renshaw using money to control a family disappeared from the conversations it had been circulating through because the people who had been circulating it had read the dates and made their own conclusions. Preston retained an attorney, and the divorce proceedings moved into their formal phase. Dr. Okafor, who had prepared thoroughly, was not surprised by anything that emerged. Evelyn signed the lease on the Burbank apartment on a Thursday in early April. I drove her there with Maisie in the back seat, captained the horse in Maisie's lap, a car full of boxes. The apartment was on the 2nd floor, with windows that faced west and caught the afternoon light. The way Evelyn had always liked, she had said this once, years ago, about the light in her first apartment after college, and I had remembered it without knowing why, until I stood in the doorway of this one and understood. She got the keys from the landlord, a quiet man named Frank, who shook her hand and said the previous tenant had left some pots in the kitchen if she needed them. And Evelyn said thank you, and stepped inside and stood in the middle of the empty living room, with the afternoon light coming in through the west-facing windows, and her daughter spinning slow circles in the center of the floor, with her arms out and her face tipped up. "Do you like it?" Evelyn asked her. Maisie stopped spinning and looked around the room with the considered gravity of a 4-year-old conducting a property evaluation. "It smells like new," she said. "I like new." I helped carry boxes until my back told me to stop, and then I sat on the steps of the building in the April afternoon and listened to the sounds of my daughter and my granddaughter making a home out of empty rooms, and thought that, of all the things I had built in 60 years, this was not one I had constructed deliberately, but it was one I was glad existed. The months that followed were ordinary in the way that good things often are. Evelyn went back to work. She had kept her position at the architectural firm through everything quietly, without making it part of the story she was living, and now she returned to it with the focused energy of someone who has remembered what they are good at. She paid her rent, she paid her utilities. She called me on Sundays and sometimes on Wednesdays, and occasionally showed up at Mariposa Street with Maisie and a bag of groceries, and the expectation that I would cook, which I did. Maisie started pre-kindergarten at a school 3 blocks from the Burbank apartment. She made a friend named Lucy on the first day, and arrived home that afternoon with an extremely detailed account of Lucy's opinions on juice boxes and the classroom hamster. Captain attended every school event in Maisie's backpack. The divorce was finalized in September. Preston settled the debt question through the proceedings. The court divided what it divided and assigned what it assigned, and Dr. Okafor made the arguments she had told Evelyn she would make, and in the end, the outcome was as fair as these things can be made to be, which is to say imperfect and livable and final. The Hale family's mortgage situation resolved itself in the way that situations resolve themselves, when the person who has been softening the consequences steps back with difficulty and over time, and without anyone asking me to be involved. I did not hear from Vernon or Claudia through any of it. Not in the spring, not in the summer, not through the fall. Until a Thursday afternoon in November, when my doorbell camera recorded a car I recognized parking at the curb on Mariposa Street. They sat in it for a long time before they got out. They sat in the car for 11 minutes. I know because I was watching the camera feed on my phone from the kitchen table, and I noted the time the way I note most things, without deciding to automatically the habit of 60 years. Vernon got out first, then Claudia. They walked up the path side by side, not touching with the careful posture of people who have rehearsed an entrance and are now committed to it. Vernon was wearing his good coat. Claudia had done her hair. These details told me something about how seriously they were taking the conversation they were about to have and what they expected from it. I opened the door before they knocked. "Walter," Vernon said. "Come in," I said. I led them to the living room and did not offer coffee because this was not that kind of visit. They sat on the sofa, the one I had bought myself from a furniture store on San Fernando Road, after Evelyn and Maisie had their own place, and I had rearranged the house back into something that was only mine. Vernon sat forward, elbows on his knees. Claudia sat straight, hands folded, the posture of a woman who had decided she was here to negotiate. Vernon cleared his throat. "We've been doing a lot of thinking," he said, "both of us, about everything that happened, about what we could have done differently." He paused and I could hear him selecting the next words with the same careful diction I had noted on the phone in February, the architecture of a prepared statement. "We believe that Evelyn deserves to come home. We believe that Maisie deserves her full family. And we are prepared to put the past behind us, all of it, if you are willing to help us through this current difficulty with the property." Claudia added, "We're ready to forgive Walter, both of us, and we think for Maisie's sake, it's time to heal." I looked at them both for a moment, then I said, "Excuse me for just a minute." I went to the bottom of the stairs and called up, "Evelyn, can you come down?" A pause, then footsteps, and my daughter appeared at the top of the stairs, in her coat keys in her hand. She had driven over from Burbank that morning, so we could drop Maisie at Diane's and run some errands together, a Sunday routine we had fallen into without planning it. She looked down and saw Vernon and Claudia in the living room, and something moved through her face. Not fear, not anger, just a kind of clear-eyed recognition, the expression of someone who has already done the hardest part and knows it. She came downstairs and stood beside me in the doorway. Claudia looked at her, and because Claudia was who she was and had not changed as much as this visit required her to have changed, she said, "Evelyn, we're glad you're here. We wanted you to hear this too." A breath gracious and managed. "We're ready to welcome you back, both of you, you and Maisie. Whatever happened before, we can move past it. That's what family does." Evelyn looked at her mother-in-law for a long moment. Then she looked at the keys in her hand, the keys to the apartment on Olive Avenue in Burbank, the apartment she had signed the lease on herself, the apartment where Maisie had a bedroom, with a window that faced the morning light and a hook on the back of the door where Captain the Horse hung every night. "I appreciate that," Evelyn said. Her voice was even and unhurried, the voice of someone who has no anger left because they have moved somewhere past it. "But I didn't ask to come back." Claudia's expression shifted. "We're offering—" "I know what you're offering," Evelyn said. "I heard you." She glanced at Vernon, then back at Claudia. "You're offering to forgive me and let me return, but that assumes I've been waiting for permission." She paused, not for effect, just because the next thing she said was true and she wanted to say it correctly. "I have an apartment, I have a job, I pay my own bills. Maisie has a room with a window she likes, and a school 3 blocks away, and a friend named Lucy." Her voice did not waver. "I don't need you to let me come home. I'm already home." Vernon tried, "Evelyn, think about what's best for Maisie." "I am," she said simply. "I do that every day." Claudia turned to me the way she had always turned to the nearest available authority when a conversation stopped going her way. "Walter, surely you can see that this situation isn't good for anyone. If you could just—" "I think Evelyn said what needed to be said. I told her." Claudia's jaw tightened. She looked between us, and I watched the moment she understood that there was no third option here, no appeal to a higher authority, no arrangement to be negotiated. The room had only 2 answers in it, and both of them were no. She stood up. Vernon stood with her, a beat behind. We came here in good faith. Vernon said stiffly, the formality returning, because it was the only coat he had that still fit. I know you did, I said. Safe drive home. I held the front door open. They walked out. I closed the door behind them and listened to their footsteps down the path, the car doors, the engine, the sound of them leaving Mariposa Street for what I believed without particular drama would be the last time. Evelyn was standing in the hallway behind me. She exhaled one long, slow breath from somewhere deep, and then she laughed a small sound, surprised out of her. The laugh of someone who had steeled herself for something difficult and found it was simply over. "That's it," she said. "That's it," I said. She shook her head, and in her face was something I was glad to see. Not triumph, nothing sharp, just the clean, uncluttered feeling of a thing that has been finished. We picked up Maisie from Diane's, and Evelyn drove back to Burbank, and I spent the afternoon doing not very much in a house that felt for the first time in a long time exactly the right size. On the evening of December 24th, I drove to Burbank with a box of presents in the back seat. The apartment building was strung with lights, not Evelyn's doing. The landlord Frank had put them up along the roofline, a small gesture that made the building look warm from the street. I buzzed up and heard Maisie's voice on the intercom, before the door even opened, talking over herself, with the information that there was a tree, and it had a star on top, and she had put the star on herself, with a step stool, and Mommy had held the step stool. I took the elevator to the second floor. The door was already open. Maisie came out of it at full speed in pajamas, printed with small dogs, and threw herself at me with the precise, cheerful violence of a child who has not seen someone for 4 whole days and considers this an outrage. I caught her and held her up, and she grabbed both sides of my face with her small hands and looked at me very seriously. "Grandpa," she said, "do we have to go outside tonight?" My throat tightened. I held her a little closer. "No," I said. "Because this is your home." She considered this, decided it was satisfactory, wriggled down and ran back through the open door, already calling to her mother about something involving Captain and the placement of the presents under the tree. I stood in the hallway for a moment. Through the open door, I could see the apartment, the warm light, the small tree in the corner with its hand-placed star, the kitchen where Evelyn was moving around with the ease of someone in a space that belongs to her, the low sound of music coming from somewhere. It was not a large apartment. It was not the Pasadena house. It had second-hand furniture and a west-facing window, and a landlord who had left some pots in the kitchen. It was exactly enough. I walked in and closed the door behind me. What I had done on Christmas Eve 1 year ago was not complicated when I thought about it clearly. I had not set out to destroy anything, or take anything, or punish anyone. I had simply stopped catching people who had chosen repeatedly and deliberately to fall. The Hale family had believed for years that my love for Maisie was a guarantee that no matter what they did, I would continue to absorb the consequences because the alternative was too painful to consider. They had been wrong about that. Not because I loved Maisie any less, but because I had understood standing in a dark driveway in Pasadena with a crumpled note in my hand and a 4-year-old asleep in my back seat that the most dangerous thing I could do for my granddaughter was to teach her that the people who mistreat the ones you love never have to face what they've done. She would learn other lessons from me, better ones. I put the presents under the tree. Maisie organized them by size, which she explained was the correct method. Evelyn made dinner, and we ate at the small table by the west-facing window while the December dark settled over Burbank, and the building's roofline lights made squares of gold on the sidewalk below. After dinner, Maisie fell asleep on the couch with Captain under her arm, and her mouth slightly open, and Evelyn covered her with a blanket and stood looking at her daughter for a moment, with the expression that parents have when children sleep. That particular mix of exhaustion and wonder and relief that never quite has a name. Then she looked at me. "Thank you, Dad," she said. "You did the hard part," I said. She shook her head. "We both did. I stayed until 10, and then I drove home to Glendale on empty December streets, the city quiet around me, the same way it had been quiet 1 year ago, when I had driven in the other direction, with everything still ahead of us. The difference was that now I knew how it ended. It ended with a child asleep on a couch in an apartment she called home, and her mother standing in a kitchen that was hers, and a grandfather driving back through the dark, thinking that of all the things he had ever built, the ones that mattered most had been built by the people he loved with whatever he had managed to give them, and that this was exactly as it should be. I've told you this family story. Not because I'm proud of every choice I made, but because I think someone out there needs to hear it. Here's what I know. Now love is not the same as obligation. And for too long, I confused the two. I kept writing checks, extending grace, absorbing consequences, not because it was right, but because I was afraid that stopping meant I didn't love Maisie enough. I was wrong about that. God showed me in the quiet of a dark driveway on Christmas Eve that protecting someone and enabling the people who hurt them are two very different things. This is a family betrayal story, yes, but it's also a story about what happens when one person finally stops pretending. My honest opinion. The most dangerous thing in a family isn't the one who hurts you. It's the silence that lets them keep doing it. Don't be like me. Don't wait for a note left on a suitcase. Don't wait for your child's hands to shake before you decide that enough is enough. Set the boundary before the damage is done. That is the lesson I wish I had learned 20 years earlier. If this family story stayed with you, if you've ever felt like the person everyone leans on, but nobody protects, drop a word in the comments. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. And if you believe that family betrayal should never go unanswered, subscribe to Revenge Dad. There are more stories coming. Thank you for staying until the end. The stories on this channel contain fictional elements created for the purpose of entertainment and reflection. If this content isn't for you, we respect that. Please feel free to explore other content that better suits you.